Some memories stay with you no matter how many years go by. For me, it's the summers the first spent at Aunt Layla's house. There was something timeless about those days. Mornings always began with the smell of coffee and fresh jasmine from the backyard. Mark, my little cousin, would burst into my room full of energy, dragging me out to play or help him build forts out of blankets. But it wasn't Mark who made those summers feel like magic. It was Layla. Layla wasn't like other adults. She was warm, sharp, and elegant in a way that didn't seem forced. Her house was always filled with soft music, light perfume, and an effortless calm. As a child, I adored her, not just because she let me stay up late or eat ice cream for dinner, but because she made me feel seen, important, not like a kid. At the time, I didn't understand why I looked forward to being near her so much. I only knew that when I left her house in August, something in me felt dimmer, like I had stepped out of a dream. When I turned 14, something shifted. I started noticing things I hadn't before. How Layla tucked her hair behind her ear, the way she hummed to herself when she cooked, how her dresses seemed to float when she walked. I caught myself watching her more than I used to. Sometimes I'd pause outside her door when she was changing, pretending I needed something. Then I'd feel guilty and rush away. I told myself I was just fascinated. Maybe it was because she was everything I wasn't, confident, graceful, and completely in control of her world. Still, those moments stirred something in me I couldn't name. I never told anyone. How could I? Years passed and I tried to push those thoughts away. I buried myself in school, friends, music. But I always came back to Layla's house during the summer, like a magnet pulling me home. At 18, the tension I had once ignored began to surface. Layla greeted me at the door that summer with the same warm smile, but something was different. Her eyes lingered a bit longer. Her hugs were tighter. I chalked it up to nostalgia. Maybe we were just both happy to see each other again. But little things started piling up. When we shopped together, she held my gaze when complimenting my outfit. When we cooked together, her hand would brush mine and stay there just a second too long. Nothing inappropriate, just charged. I caught myself doing the same. Mirroring her body language. Watching her when I thought she wasn't looking. One afternoon we went to the supermarket. Mark had gone to a sleepover, so it was just us. We laughed our way through the aisles like always, poking fun at the absurd prices and sharing stories. On the way back, Layla bought us ice cream. We sat in the car in silence, the radio humming low. I glanced over as she licked her spoon and felt my stomach twist. My thoughts were loud and confusing. I tried to focus on the music, on the trees rushing past the window, on anything else. As we neared the house, Layla reached over to adjust the AC and her hand brushed my knee. It was light, accidental probably, but my skin burned. I didn't say anything. Neither did she. The silence stretched thin, held together by 100 unsaid words. That night, I sat awake in the guest room staring at the ceiling fan. I couldn't deny it anymore. I wasn't just drawn to Layla because she was stylish or kind, or the only adult who made me feel seen. I had been carrying something deeper for years. It wasn't just admiration. It was affection. Real affection. Complicated. Messy. Quietly alive in the spaces between us. I didn't know what to do with it. I was afraid of ruining everything. Our relationship, my safe haven, the place that had always felt like home. But I also knew that pretending nothing had changed would be a lie. The next morning, Layla poured us coffee and smiled like she always did. But I saw the question in her eyes. As if she felt the same weight pressing down and didn't know how to lift it either. From then on, the atmosphere between us changed. We danced around our words carefully, keeping things light, but every shared glance held more meaning. Compliments came softer, laced with something unspoken. That summer became a quiet storm, gentle on the outside but powerful just beneath the surface. And I didn't know how, or if, it would ever pass. In the days that followed, I found myself studying Layla in ways I hadn't before. Not just how she moved, but how she thought, how she reacted to the world. It was like I had taken off tinted glasses and suddenly everything about her came into sharper focus. She was patient with Mark, but never condescending. She was firm but kind when she told him no. And somehow, even when she was exhausted after work, she still made dinner feel like an occasion. I watched how she organized the kitchen drawers, how she took pride in the smallest rituals. The careful way she folded the tea towels, the fresh flowers she kept on the table even when no one would see them but us. Being around her made me feel calmer, like her rhythm steadied mine. One afternoon, while Mark was at soccer camp and the sun hung high and golden in the sky, We decided to clean out the garage. I was sweating, brushing off dusty cardboard boxes and laughing as we pulled out relics from the past. Photo albums, outdated clothes, even a lava lamp that still worked. "Look at this," Layla said, holding up an old pair of rollerblades. "Remember these? You begged me to let you use them when you were 10. I grinned. "And you said I'd break both legs. You nearly did." We laughed. It felt effortless, like old times. Later, while sitting on the garage step drinking lemonade, I caught Layla watching me. "What?" I asked, my voice too light to hide the nervous flutter in my chest. She shrugged, a half-smile on her face. "You've changed a lot." "So have you." There was a pause. It wasn't awkward, just heavy. "You know," she said slowly, "you were always special to me. Even when you were little. I knew you'd grow into someone strong and thoughtful." I looked down, unsure of how to respond. Compliments from Layla meant something deeper. I could feel it. "You always made me feel like I belonged," I finally said. "When I didn't know how to be anywhere." She reached out and gently touched my wrist, just for a second, and then looked away. That moment sat between us like a stone in still water. Quiet but unmovable. That night after dinner, we sat on the back patio as twilight settled over the yard. Mark had gone to bed early after his camp exhaustion caught up with him. Layla poured us each a glass of red wine and lit a candle between us. "Do you ever think about how weird life is?" she asked, leaning back in the cushioned chair. "All the time," I said, swirling my glass. "Like how people can mean everything to you and they don't even realize it." She looked at me for a long time. "I think people always feel more than they say," she replied. The air shifted. I could barely breathe. Then, like it happened outside of time, I leaned forward slightly. Not too close, not too far. Just enough for our knees to touch. Layla didn't move away. Her fingers traced the rim of her glass slowly. My voice came out smaller than I expected. "Have you ever felt confused about what something means?" She turned her head, her expression unreadable. "Yes," she said. "More than once." There was a silence I didn't know how to break. And then, without planning it, without even fully realizing it, I leaned closer. It wasn't a kiss, not quite. But our faces hovered too close, our breath mingling in the narrow space between words and decisions. And then I pulled back, cheeks flushed. "I'm sorry," I whispered. But Layla didn't look alarmed. She looked calm, grounded, as if she had already made peace with whatever this was. "You don't have to apologize for being human," she said quietly. "You're allowed to feel things, even confusing things." I didn't know whether to cry or laugh. "You're not angry?" I asked. "No," she said. "Because love, whatever kind it is, doesn't have to be shameful. It's what we do with it that matters." That sentence would stay with me for days. From that point on, our interactions changed. Not in ways other people could see, but in the way we carried each other's presence. She began brushing my hair in the morning like she used to when I was younger. But now there was a softness, an unspoken depth in each touch. I helped her cook dinner and we'd catch each other's eyes and smile for no reason at all. There was no rush. No reckless impulse. Just a slow unfolding of something we hadn't dared name. One evening we were folding laundry on the couch, the most mundane of tasks, when Layla looked up and said, "Do you think the world makes too many rules about who you're allowed to care for?" I froze. "Yeah," I said. "I think it scares people when something doesn't fit a label." She nodded slowly. "I think what matters most," she said, "is how gently we treat each other." And in that moment I knew whatever this was between us, it wasn't wrong. It wasn't dangerous. It was care. Respect. Emotion that had grown in the quiet moments across years of shared trust. And for now that was enough. There was something about that summer that made time feel slower, like the days hung longer in the air, heavy with meaning. Even the ordinary moments carried a softness I hadn't noticed before. Making tea. Folding towels. Sitting on opposite ends of the couch with our legs curled in the same direction. It was strange how normal everything appeared from the outside. But inside everything was shifting. Layla never said anything directly. He didn't have to. Her gestures spoke a quieter language. The way her voice softened when she asked how I'd slept, how she waited for me before pouring her morning coffee, how she reached for my hand when we crossed the street, even though I wasn't a child anymore. One Saturday evening we were alone again. Mark was at a friend's birthday sleepover, and Layla had taken the night off from working remotely. She suggested a movie marathon. Something light with old comedies and a stack of pillows between us. By the second movie I wasn't really watching anymore. I was watching her. The way her eyes crinkled when she smiled. How her fingers curled into the hem of the blanket. The soft sound she made when she laughed. I didn't realize she was watching me too, until the screen went quiet and we found ourselves in stillness. I feel like we've been dancing around something, I said suddenly before I could stop myself. Layla didn't look away. Maybe, she said. But not everything needs to be defined. Some things just are. I swallowed hard. But I need to understand it. I need to understand what I'm feeling. What we're doing. She sighed, not in frustration, but as if the truth itself weighed something. I think we've always loved each other, Nikki. Just differently over time. That love grew up with us. And now here we are trying to figure out what kind of shape it takes. My chest ached. The way she said my name was always softer than anyone else did. Is it wrong to feel this close? I asked. No, she said firmly. What would be wrong is to pretend you don't feel it at all. I'd never ask you to lie to yourself. We sat in silence for a moment, the movie forgotten. I'm scared, I admitted. I know, she said. Me too. Then she leaned over and wrapped her arms around me, not out of pity, not to calm me down, just to be close. Her chin rested gently on my shoulder, and I leaned into her warmth like I had when I was younger, but everything was different now. I never meant to confuse you, she whispered. But I've always wanted you to feel safe. Even now. And I did. I felt safer with her than anywhere else in the world. That night I didn't go back to the guest room. We stayed up talking on the couch until the candles burned out and the moonlight spilled across the hardwood floor. At some point I laid my head in her lap and she stroked my hair gently like she had years ago, but with a tenderness that said, I see you now, all of you. We didn't speak again about labels or questions. We just let the closeness be what it was. The next morning I woke up to the smell of pancakes. Layla was in the kitchen, barefoot in one of her soft cotton robes, her hair a little messy from sleep. She looked over her shoulder and smiled. Morning, sleepyhead. I smiled back even though my chest still carried the weight of uncertainty. You made pancakes? Of course, she said, flipping one expertly. It's Sunday. We ate in the breakfast nook. Sunlight poured through the windows. Mark's shoes were by the door and the house felt full in a quiet, lived-in way. For a moment I let myself imagine what life would be like if I never left. If the world allowed this closeness to stay. But I knew things would eventually shift again. I was starting college in a few months. Layla would return to her routine. The summer would end and the spell would break. So I had to ask, what happens after this? I said. She set her fork down gently. We don't have to plan everything. But I think we keep being honest. About what we feel. About what we need. That's all anyone can do. I nodded even though I didn't know what that meant. Later that day we sat in the backyard with our feet in the kiddie pool, laughing at how ridiculous it looked. Layla had put on sunglasses and a floppy sun hat, sipping lemonade like she was poolside in the south of France. You're going to make some college girl very jealous, she teased. Why would I want anyone else? I said before I could stop myself. She looked at me, not surprised, not amused, just thoughtful. You'll figure out what you want, Nikki. I just hope you always remember who you are. And where you felt most like yourself. I didn't say anything. I just smiled. Because I knew exactly where that place was. The final week of summer came quietly. No dramatic sunsets. No sudden change in the air. Just a slow, inevitable knowing that things were winding down, that I'd have to pack my suitcase and return to a different life. One filled with lectures, dorm rooms, deadlines, and people who didn't know this version of me. People who didn't know Layla. I found myself memorizing everything. The sound of the wind through the kitchen window, the way her bracelets clinked when she stirred sugar into her tea, the echo of Mark's laughter from the hallway. These weren't just memories. They were pieces of a life that had shaped me. And at the center of it all was her. On my last evening there, we sat on the porch swing as the sky turned soft with dusk. The cicadas hummed in the background. Layla had made hot cocoa even though it was still warm outside. Just because she knew I liked it that way. Do you feel ready? She asked gently. No, I admitted. She didn't press me. She just let my answer sit there. I've always been afraid of leaving things behind, I said. But this feels different. Like leaving you behind means leaving a part of myself. "You're not leaving me behind," she said, her voice steady. "You're just moving forward. And I'm not going anywhere." I turned to her. "But it won't be the same." "No," she agreed. "It won't. But that doesn't mean it will be less. Just different." I looked down at my hands folded tightly in my lap. Her hand reached for mine slowly, carefully. She always knew how to move without rushing. Her thumb brushed gently over my knuckles. "I'll miss this," I whispered. "Me too." I wanted to say more, to ask her what we were, to define this bond that had stretched so far beyond words. But I realized maybe it wasn't meant to be labeled. Maybe it was okay to love someone in a way the world didn't quite understand. Not everything had to fit. What mattered was that she had given me a kind of closeness I'd never felt before. Safe, steady, and real. That night we stayed up late quietly packing my things. Layla folded my clothes with such care, like she was holding time in her hands. I found myself pausing every few minutes just to watch her, trying to burn the image into memory. As we zipped up the last bag, she looked at me and said, "You know, Nikki, you don't need anyone else's permission to love people deeply. As long as it's honest and kind, it matters." "I don't know what this all means," I said softly. "But I know I've never felt more like myself than when I'm with you." She didn't answer right away. Instead, she reached out and pulled me into a quiet embrace. No pretense, no confusion. Just warmth. Just presence. "I'll always be here," she said into my hair. "Even if we're miles apart. That doesn't change." And I believed her. The next morning, as we stood at the train station, I watched her waving from the platform as I boarded. Mark was beside her, bouncing with energy and already talking about next summer. Layla didn't say much, just smiled in that quiet way she did when her heart was full but her words were few. As the train pulled away, I leaned my head against the window and closed my eyes. Everything we had shared that summer would stay with me, not as something forbidden or confusing, but as something real. Something soft and powerful that lived in glances and shared silences, and the spaces where words didn't quite reach. Love doesn't always follow maps. Sometimes it draws its own. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't afraid of that anymore.